After working tirelessly and living a repetitive life, I felt the weight of exhaustion and monotony pressing down on me. I needed a break, a real escape to breathe, to refresh my soul. So I decided to go somewhere new, somewhere far from my usual routine. With no clear destination in mind, I turned to Google Maps and began searching for possibilities. As I scrolled through the map, my heart was drawn to France. Something about it just felt right. While browsing, two cities stood out and caught my attention: Grenoble and Nice. Stop for a moment and remember the names of these two cities. I'll tell you why later. Eventually, I chose Nice. There was one simple but compelling reason: the beach. I longed to be near the sea, to feel the waves, to listen to the calming sound of water. And of course, the charm and beauty of the city itself were impossible to ignore. So I packed my bags and set off from Italy, where I live, on a bus journey to Nice. Before leaving, I booked a place to stay online to make sure I had somewhere to rest when I arrived. The bus route ran along the coastline, which made the journey even more beautiful. At one point, I could even see glimpses of the small but dazzling country of Monaco in the distance. By the time I reached my hostel in Nice, it was evening. I checked in, placed my bag in a locker, and stepped out to take a walk and explore. The beach wasn't too close to where I was staying, so I had to walk a bit to get there. As I wandered through the unfamiliar streets of Nice, my eyes were drawn to the colorful shops and peaceful ambiance. Finally, I reached the seashore. I wanted to take a swim, but it was already dark, and the chill of the night made me change my mind. Instead, I walked slowly along the beach, letting the soft sound of the waves wash over me. After sitting on the sand for a while, soaking in the peaceful vibes, I decided to head back. On my way, I stopped by a McDonald's and grabbed some dinner. It was a quiet end to a beautiful beginning. As I approached the hostel that night, I noticed a young woman sitting quietly at the edge of the entrance steps, a lit cigarette in her hand. She looked quite young, perhaps in her early 20s, but what struck me most was the deep sadness in her eyes. There was a silent pain in her expression that words couldn't capture. And yet, there was something familiar about her. I couldn't quite place it, but I felt like I had seen her before. No matter how much I tried to remember, her identity eluded me. I simply smiled gently at her and walked into the hostel, heading toward my room. Later that night, I woke up suddenly. The room was quiet, bathed in darkness. I felt an urge to look outside the window, but first I searched for my shoes in the dark. I felt around with my feet, but they were nowhere to be found. Tired, I gave up and fell back into bed. There were three other people in the room, and I noticed one of the beds was empty. Whoever had been sleeping there must have gone out. At that moment, a thought crossed my mind. Maybe my shoes weren't missing. Maybe they had been taken by mistake. So I waited. A little while later, a young man entered the room. He was a bit taller than me, and he looked friendly. "I've been waiting," I said. He looked a bit startled, but replied politely, "I'm really sorry, brother." I went out for a smoke, and my shoes were still packed in my bag. So I grabbed the pair that was near the bed. Guess they were yours. He handed them over with an apologetic smile. Though I found the situation mildly amusing, I didn't show it on my face. I just nodded. I had no idea then that the guy who wore my shoes that night would become one of the most genuine friends I'd meet on this journey. By morning, we had already bonded. We talked, laughed, and decided to explore together. He invited me to walk with him, maybe even swim at the beach. He was from Algeria, and I soon realized quite addicted to cigarettes. But that didn't matter. There was something real about him, something honest. We both stepped out of the hostel together. As we walked out, I noticed the same girl from the previous night. She was dressed beautifully, standing gracefully near the entrance. She and I exchanged a smile. That day, my new friend and I spent hours wandering through the beautiful city of Nice. We explored the streets, shared laughs, and spent a long time by the beach, soaking in the warm sun and the rhythm of the waves. Since he was a frequent smoker, I found myself joining him with a cigarette now and then, not out of habit, but more out of the moment we were in. We ate together, took a lot of photos, and captured memories. He told me that back in Algeria, he had played several roles in local theater productions. It showed. He carried himself like a model whenever we posed for pictures.